Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus. You are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and backed by popular demand, our friend, Toby Moyle. Toby, welcome back to the Loan Officer Podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it's been a minute or a year.
Yeah,
It's
you're
been
right.
a while.
It's like a time warp this last couple of years for me anyway. So
Yes, for those that don't know, and maybe you just now recently have found us on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, and you're digging what we do, Toby was one of our first ever guests, and she did a double episode where we actually asked her to stick around, and we did back-to-back episodes.
That's right.
But Toby's a friend of mine. We've been friends for well over the past decade, going on 2 decades.
Yes.
We both started our careers in the mortgage industry about the same time, and they each took different directions. You went into executive leadership way quicker than I did. I kind of got there by default, kind of. And today, you dedicate your life through your company, Life is a Ladder, to coaching businessmen and women and coaching entrepreneurs on everything from how to scale their business on how to be better leaders.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, because I figured once I learned so many of these things, those basic leadership tenets and skills, I wanted to pay it forward. And if I could figure out a way to make a living doing exactly that, then, that would be a true blessing. So that's what I get to do every day with my company.
So your company is Life is a Ladder.
That's right.
And you have been running that full time for how long now? Has it been 3 years?
Gosh, time
5
flies.
years?
Yeah,
I know.
Mid 2018. So yeah, what is that? A few years
Wow, you're
now.
going on
4
5 years.
Yeah, it's going on.
Right, 18, 4 years. You're going on 4 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
going on 4 years, which I'm sure has been a whirlwind. Like anyone
has
who's
been.
tuned in long enough, I'm sure you can attest to this. The first 2 years are pretty cruddy
Right.
in terms of
Anything
they're
new.
exciting, but you don't have your clientele built up just yet. You're probably still figuring out your exact place
That's right.
in the market. And the first 2 years is typically when people would quit or they would fail or they would give up, which you didn't do because you're now going on year 4. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
What have you been up to like the past 12 months? Like what is Life is a Ladder all about? And what does your work schedule throughout the months, the quarters, and the year look like?
Yeah,
To give
what
the
does it
audience a
look
good perspective.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as a coach, right, as coach, the moniker, I use that, and certainly I do coach people in that capacity. I'm really a consultant. You said that right before we went on air, and that's really kind of how I would describe if we're just sitting around with friends. It's really, I'm a consultant because my role might look different to different organizations, but my schedule looks like I work with companies and I will face off in tandem, work with the leader. So it's the CEO, it's the general manager, it's the owner of the company. They bring me in kind of as a pinch hitter or a fixer or a fractional leader that they can, I can come in for a set period of time and help them to make a move in their organization. So it might be we want to grow our team. It might be, Toby, I have a couple producers that I'd like your assistance to help me as the leader to work on my skills so I can then help these 2 producers to do more. Just to help them kind of improve their leadership skills, not to imply that they don't already have great leadership skills, but you and I certainly agree you can always do better. And there's a real value whenever you have someone from the outside perspective looking in at your business. So we have our own bias, right? And our own
Correct.
lens that we see ourselves through. So if you've ever thought, man, it'd be kind of interesting to see what someone else thinks of me and kind of a disinterested, if you will, third party. And that's I work with some very top producers, both in real estate and in mortgage as well. And so that's exactly what I'll do. So I'll come in, and obviously, as you can probably imagine, that can be a very delicate dance to come in, even though someone's paying you to give them that feedback. It's a delicate thing to say, hey, Dustin, here's what we're seeing, here's what I see, right? And that's where the real coaching comes in, because it's a lot of asking questions and helping you through a thought process so that you come up with the solutions.
Yeah, no, I remember one of my favorite mental health therapists. I'm a huge mental health person.
Yeah.
I think we should do more of that as a society. I think we should
1,000
talk
agree.
about it. I think we should brag about it
Yep.
as a society.
Agreed.
So I'm going to brag on my dude, Jesse. But one thing Jesse had to tell me early on is you're not paying me to be your friend.
Yes.
And I was like, ooh, okay. So that means you're going to say some things that are going to hurt, right? He's
Right.
like, only because it's my job.
That's right.
And that's what you're paying me to do.
That's right.
Right? Yeah, you get to come in. I love the analogy pinch hitter. Like you're like a pinch hit partner or
Yes.
an adjunct coming in. Like, hey, look,
Yep.
you're the secret weapon sometimes.
That's right.
And you're usually in and out, right? 6, 12 months typically. And,
That's right.
And
Yeah.
the goal is that they don't need you.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I want to teach them. I mean, the old cliche, right? You know, I want to teach them to fish versus giving them a fish. And nothing wrong with, there's certainly a million ways to skin the cat and to work on your professional and personal development. I have just found with me, you said something that was very interesting and on point for me particularly, which is I'm just by nature, I'm just a very kind, empathetic kind of a person, and it can very easily, and I do think there again, not ever to make conversations just about male or female, but partly because I'm a female, there's just a maternal kind of an instinct, I think, that goes on that we really can be vested emotionally with our clients. And so I can become that friend zone. So almost to protect myself and my clients, I want to come in and out. I want there to be a start time and a finite end time so that we're working on something. Our time is limited. Let's get it going. You know what I mean? And keep us on a real tight schedule so that it doesn't fall into that kind of complacency of like, oh, there's Toby, she's my buddy. Because that can, like I said, admittedly, that can happen. So it doesn't happen the way that I do it. So that was like one of the few very smart things that I did from the very beginning, is I kind of knew I had a tendency from my leadership years in corporate America. I had that tendency to sometimes get too personally invested in people that were in my direct report. And I thought, if I did this on my own, which of course I ended up doing, if I do this on my own, I'm going to have some stopgaps put in there. So there's some bumpers on this whole relationship thing. So like, I'm not going to go to your baby shower. I'm not going to. I care about you, but you're my
client. You're paying me to do something and bring value to you.
That's right.
You mentioned corporate America. Your LinkedIn profile, for anyone that would look Toby Moyle up, would show me. Yeah, you worked for some of the largest organizations in our country: Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan Chase. So yeah, you got some clout. You have some experience behind you. I think it's good for anyone to know, because people are tuning in like, well, what's this lady doing? What does she know? You're also designated through John Maxwell.
That's right.
You're what is it? What's the certification? It said John Maxwell certified.
Yeah. So what you do is you go through a course, and John Maxwell is an author who's written about 80 books on the topic of leadership.
Just about 80.
80, exactly right. Oof, good for him. And so anyways, you can go through his curriculum and then become certified so that you can actually go out and do seminars or do speaking engagements with his content, using his content. Legally you can do that. And so
how long does that take? Or how long did it take you when you did it?
It took me a week when I did it before. And I think they have shorter programs now. And it's great because it's a little personal development as well while you're there. So it's really great. Yeah, but my corporate America career, that spanned a couple decades, I just climbed the proverbial corporate ladder, as you said.
Started from the bottom, now I'm here.
That's right. So I was a producing loan officer, and then went into a non-producing manager role, and then just kept kind of climbing the ladder. I joked that I felt like that's what I was just supposed to do. And there's nothing wrong with that, certainly. I just felt like once I kind of got to a certain rung on that corporate ladder, that I just always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. And so that's what I did a few years ago. But I also thought...
It's kind of like you climbed.
Yes.
And you climbed. And you climbed. Then you got really close to the sun, like Icarus. You're like, oh, wow, this burns. This is no fun. I need to climb back down because it's more fun.
Yeah.
Somewhere not that close to the top.
Make my own ladders, so to speak, right? Not to play on words. But, I thought, and this is not, there again, certainly no indictment on the organizations that I worked for, some Fortune 50 financial institutions, but they even did not have a lot of development built in, leadership development, professional development built into those organizations, at least in our business line, in retail lending, the mortgage division. And so I just always thought, you kind of had to figure it out on your own. They'd have a couple days every few years around leadership. And it's uber important, I think, whether you're listening and you're in a leadership role now or you're not. You certainly work for someone, right, that's up the food chain a little bit. And I think we'd all agree it's very important that the people that are leaders have some great skills, whether they were naturally born to be bent to be just a little bit better of a leader than some others. I still say, I don't care how good you naturally, quote unquote, are, we can all improve. And like any skill, singing I like to use as kind of a metaphor, because there's some people that are born with just a wonderful voice. I heard JC has a great voice. He can sing for us later, maybe. No. But, some people have just a great voice. Those people still have singing lessons, right? And
crazily.
vocal coaches, and they always improve. So I think it's a similar thing with skill with leadership.
Oh,
I think,
100%. And I kind of want to focus on that. Like, let's focus today on leadership. It's something you're passionate about. It's something that you spent the past 4 years solely working on, but really you have 20-year track record leading up to the culmination of where you are today in your career. What does it mean to you to be a leader?
To me, it's a lot of things, but I think for me, it's caring about something else bigger than yourself. So it could be the team, it could be a company goal, it could be an individual, but it's putting others ahead of yourself. And it might be that sometimes those goals are aligned. And so by helping the team, it's also helping you. That's great. But it means that you're willing to and can put others above you.
So
Caring that much.
I know where I stand on this, but I want to get your take on it.
Yeah.
Can anyone be a leader?
So I think some people are born maybe more leaders. I think anyone can be a leader. Sure, I do. I would say yes. I think some are going to care more and maybe have a heart for that more. What do you think? You don't think?
No, I would agree. It's like asking, can anyone be a runner?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
You can be a runner. Now, you might not be a fast runner.
Yeah.
You might not be an elite runner. But if you wanted to say, I'm going to be not just a runner, can anyone be a marathon runner? I would say yes.
Yeah.
If there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean everyone's going to be great.
Agreed.
Right? But you can finish that damn race.
Agreed.
If you needed to, you could finish it. You'd find a way. There's people out there in wheelchairs who find a way to complete marathons.
Yeah.
Right? There are fathers with crippled children who find a way to finish while carrying said crippled child. I've seen them on ESPN. It's an amazing, heartfelt story. So it's like, yes, I do. But I do believe that, yes, some people will have a higher drive, a higher desire. But I wouldn't want anyone tuned in because our audience spans. It's 18 to 80. It is all walks of life. And that's how we like it, because we really want to bring topics that should be taught in high school but aren't taught in high school to the masses to be enjoyed, consumed, shared, liked, etc.
Yep.
And leadership to me is just one of those. Whether it's well, what does it mean for me to be a leader? Right? Because if I'm a school teacher, it may mean one thing. If I'm a student, it may mean one thing.
That's right.
If I'm a branch manager, it could mean one thing. Or sometimes, as my buddy T. Shane Johnson taught, it's a combination of everything.
Yeah.
I once asked T. Shane, well, what are you? Are you like the guy who almost died on the table 3 times? Are you the guy who has the push-up champion? Are you the mortgage lender? Are you the ex-Marine? And I loved his answer because he was like, I'm all of it.
Right.
I'm never not one of those things.
Yeah.
So you can be a leader. Now, how you lead may change, I guess.
Sure.
Like, hey, I'm going to use these tactics today because I'm in this setting. I'll use other tactics tomorrow when I'm in a whole different setting. So maybe we can talk about some tactics of how we can work out our leadership skills. Think of exercise our leadership skills. And also, how do we know if we're working under or for a good leader? Because something that John and I talk a lot about is when people are out interviewing for their next career, whether it's in pharmaceutical sales, whether it's to be a mortgage loan originator or a commercial realtor, whatever, right? I think you should be interviewing, yes, for the job that's available, but also with you being the person who is under the microscope, you should be able to flip the script a little bit and make sure you only go work for a good leader.
Yep.
So where should we start on this one, Toby? Should we start with how can I exercise my leadership skills, or should we start with how do I know I'm working for a good leader?
Yes. So I like the first, but I will caveat this by saying if you're not in a leadership role, i.e. You don't have a team underneath you, maybe you don't even ever care about building a team or taking that next position.
You were
whatever.
solopreneur.
You're totally fine. Yeah,
Yep.
There's no... I think when I was younger, I thought that it was like you had to kind of keep going to the next thing. That's just me. So I just think if someone's listening and they think, oh, I've been doing this a long time and what's next, you just have to really ask yourself be honest with yourself and ask some hard questions about what's life all about, not to get too like esoteric, right? But what do you really want out of your life? I mean, there's no right way to do something, I think. I was very happy. There was different positions that I held over that tenure at the bank that I was happier in some roles that on the hierarchy chart were not as high, right? Some of
Yeah.
those lower roles, if you will. Those were some of my happiest times looking back, where I was the most fulfilled and felt great. So there's that. And then the other caveat I would say is, certainly, you're right, you can improve. I think we are all leaders in different capacities in our life. So even now, and if you're a loan officer, I believe there's someone that's always going to kind of take the front leadership role in that transaction. So I don't think leadership is such an interesting thing, because I think there's just this, there again, from my perspective, this like mystique around it. There's like all these like charts and levels and all these different authors and experts that have like done all this stuff around leadership. And I think it comes down to just some core things about, there again, caring and communicating, and I'll kind of share a couple little ingredients into that recipe, if you will. But I think it impacts us all, and it might be that you are the most least experienced, the newest person in your office, but in a given situation, you might be the leader in that situation because you came from another place, another mortgage company, for instance, and there everyone's really curious about how you did something at that other organization. You can lead through that discussion, if that makes sense. So yeah, so don't, we all of these traits in this whole conversation, I think, can definitely help everybody in their life and in their career, no matter what their position.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, and as you said, sometimes you lead with your attitude.
Right.
You may be the least experienced person, but if you have the best attitude going into a situation, especially in a group setting, you very much have established yourself as a leader. Yeah. Because you're the attitude leader.
That's right. And someone's always going to be the leader. So as human beings, psychologically, there's just going to be someone that's going to, if you're in a group of 10 people next time and you're all going to make a decision on where to go for dinner or where to go after dinner, whatever, someone's going to finally come up with an idea and everyone's going to kind of fall in line. That's just how it works. And so just because you might not be the manager of your office or what have you, don't think that your opinion doesn't matter. So I think caring for me is a big one. I already said it, but I think having a heart and care, genuine concern for others, to me, is a big ingredient in being a great leader.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, because there's leadership. I guess we could quantify as there's bad leadership. Yes. There's also good leadership, and a bad leader can make people do things, but do they make people do things willingly?
Right.
And do they make them do it in a manner that they're going to give their best quality or put their best foot forward?
Right.
I can make all of you want to go with me to go get oysters right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not happy about my decision, then what type of leader was I?
Right.
Yes, I was a leader. So let's preface. We don't talk about good leadership.
Yes.
We do not want to talk about bad leadership. Let's talk about good leadership. And I think what we've already figured out, and the caveat we have, is all of us have opportunities in our daily lives to be leaders.
Yes.
Period. End of story, regardless of age, sex, race, where you are in your career, or what profession you operate within.
Yes.
You can be a leader. So then let's ask you, the leadership expert, what are some tactics that we all can use to exercise our leadership skill set? Is it whether it's a mindset, whether it's a book to read, whether it's just some cues we should pick up on, whether it's our behavior or other people's behavior, to make sure that we are working on every single day, getting 1% better, as James Clear says, and becoming effective good leaders.
Yes. So care, is that one of those things that's hard to quantify, right? How do you measure how much someone cares? I can tell you I care a lot about you, Dustin, but do I show that, which is the next kind of ingredient that I look for. So I'll work with a new client, and I'm going in and looking in these kind of 5 categories: the care that leader shows to their team, in how they act, right? How they speak to them. But the second ingredient after care is communication skills.
Okay.
So you can have the best intention for someone or for the goal. You really want to achieve that, but are you communicating well? And so I think to be a great leader, to practice great leadership skills, is to also be a great communicator. And it's one of the things that I spend, looking back now over the past few years, it's one of the things as a consultant that I spend the most time on with my clients is their communication skills. Everything from their delivery, but actually literally how they communicate.
Do you go as far as diving deep with your clients on teaching them some basics of communication skills? What are some of those? I'm curious.
Yeah, so it's everything from your delivery, your stature, how you actually show up, but it's also your attitude and how it's perceived. So I'm a big believer in 360s and going in and actually surveying all of the people in the organization, whether it's 2 people or 200, depending on what they're able to do, because there again, we see things one way. So they might say, oh, that I communicate very well with my team. Everyone knows that we're trying to achieve double the volume next year. They know that. And then I'll go out and talk to some of the people. They're like, oh no, we've never heard that.
First I heard that.
Yeah, we heard that, but they changed the goal a lot. So, and by the way, so if you mentioned a minute ago, how do you know if you work for one of these leaders, right? What are some of the cues? That would be one. And it's not only enough to know that, to identify, yes, maybe my leader's not a great communicator. Maybe they don't care about me, as Dustin and Toby are saying. What do you do with that information? That's tough. It's tough, right? We spend a lot of time with our coworkers and with our leaders. It's a big part of your life. And so I'm a big believer in finding a way that you're comfortable with. And I get that that's as I say the words, and I just can imagine somebody like, yeah, right, that's a way that's comfortable. I'll be ostracized, right? They'll hate me. There are ways. You just have to be creative or be smart about it. But there are ways to make sure that you're communicating that you need more from your leader. I think there is a little bit of an onus on a team member when they're seeing that bad leadership. Try. You could really change someone's life, and you don't obviously come with a nice attitude, but if it's as simple as, Dustin, you're my manager, my leader, and you keep changing the goals, and I'm a loan officer, and now I could say, I'm just not really, if you do me a favor, it would really help me to understand what are my goals? What are we trying to achieve here as a company? Or what is the directive right now? Because you've changed it a few times on me, and it helps me to understand things when it's a little bit more clear.
So are you adding in things like 1-minute management or daily huddles?
Yeah.
Are you everything from, hey, get off of email and have face-to-faces? Are these certain tactics that you have found to be tried and true and still working today? Or are there common mistakes people are making right now in their communication skills that if you could stop one thing, what's the one thing you would that you see that you're like, hey, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Stop doing that because that's going to make you a bad communicator.
Yeah, I think it's assuming that you understand what people heard. I think there's years ago, I heard someone say at a workshop or something, a seminar, they said, there's nothing quite as powerful as 2 human beings both walking away from a conversation and both being crystal clear that they heard the same thing. And it's tough there again, because we all have a lot going on and we hear things, the same exact thing. Sometimes we hear it differently.
And we all have our own bias.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, right? And so there's not one strategy, but yes, all of those things that you mentioned, all those tactics.
So more face-to-face. When you manage someone, do a 1-minute manage. Don't wait a year.
Absolutely.
No, don't wait a minute. Spend 1 minute, let them know what was great, what wasn't great, and what's a corrective action, then move on.
Yep.
Get off of email and text as much as you can, and get face-to-face. It's funny, I was asking communication tactics, and we just had on my buddy Renee Rodriguez, and his new book just dropped, Amplify Your Influence. And I'd encourage everyone to go buy that book, because Renee teaches, even me still today, things like, I gave a keynote presentation. He's like, dude, you made love to your water bottle the whole time. Now, that's only something Renee and I would ever pick up on, because outside of the public, you would have picked up on it too. Oh, my left hand was in my pocket, and I literally had that water bottle.
Yep.
And it was like my crutch for 20 solid minutes.
Yep.
But he teaches things, everything from your cadence.
Yes.
And I know Chris Voss in his book, Never Split the Difference, talks about cadence, talks about tone, everything from where's your belly button facing.
That's right.
Where's their belly button facing.
How you use your hands,
yes.
right? All of it.
Yes. Your hands should be waist to mouth.
Yeah.
That's the friend zone. If it's below your waist, then you're turning people off. If it's above your mouth, you're turning people off.
That's right. And then you have the video. So you add on if you're talking about leading Zoom calls or doing videos. So there's the whole element of that. So yes, there's a lot of things. And by the way, there's not a one thing there again. It's not like you have to talk like this or walk like that, or oh no, now I can't carry a water bottle, have my water bottle up there. I think there's a lot to be said for being yourself, being authentic. And that's why the care is, to me, the biggest thing. Because if people understand that your intention is good, and I might have mentioned before, but one of my favorite quotes is, we judge ourselves based on our intentions, and we judge others based on their actions. because that's all we can judge them on. We're not inside someone's head. And so I think it's, you just have to be yourself, but also, check in and have someone, it could be a mentor. It doesn't have to be a formal consultant that you hire. It could be asking some people that you trust, that you care, that care about you, and saying, hey, give me a critique on this. I just go back and watch your Zooms, go back and read your last 20 emails. That's a fun little exercise, is when I'm working with a new client, I'm like, pull up your last emails with your team. I'd like to see some communication and just see, and even them reading it. Like you said, they'll read it and be like, there's no way I just went and, said that.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
yes.
you did. Right. And a lot is lost in that kind of communication. So,
well, especially if you type like me, and my brain works faster than my keyboard or my fingers do.
Yep.
And I'm like, wait, that doesn't even make sense. Oh, I left 3 words out.
Yeah.
And those could have been keywords like the word not.
Yes. Right. Important.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do want to do dinner with you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Oh shit. I do not want to do dinner with you. I'm glad you're mentioning 360. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if John even knows this, but I was recently accepted to be in the MBA's Future Leader Program up at through the National Mortgage Bankers Association.
That's
so
great.
I get to go up to
I
get to go to DC in April. Then I get to go to Gettysburg in June. Then I'll be in Nashville. I'm in a group of there's just like 28 of us.
Yes, that's a big honor. It's a big deal.
Yep. And but one of the things I have to do before April, besides read a book, which thank God I'm in that mode right now because I'm all 75 hard in it again. But it's I have to send out this survey to 5 people.
Yeah.
I'm already cringing, Toby. I'm already like, oh God, I got to send this thing out because I know the feedback's for the betterment of me becoming a good professional and a better person. But the truth hurts sometimes.
Yep.
So, okay, I want to be a good leader, good leader. Yep. I first need to care.
Yep.
So my decisions, my thoughts, I should be able to ask myself, well, do I care? Mm-hmm. Am I showing them that I care?
Showing it. Right.
Am I showing it that I care?
Yep.
Then I need to be an effective communicator.
Yes.
And that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. But I think the encouragement for the audience, start studying communication.
That's right.
Start reading books or going to workshops or going to seminars that teach you how to effectively communicate. I'll give you one of my favorite little nuggets right now for people taking notes at home.
Yep. Write
your emails as if you're giving instructions to an 8-year-old.
Oh, that is a good one.
If your email is littered with 3-line sentences, stop. We want to give specific instructions.
Right.
This is not IKEA furniture, right? Which is the worst instructions.
Yes.
No, let's act like you're talking to a 8-year-old who's taking care of your house, your dogs, and your cats for the next week by him or herself. What would those instructions look like? Like my wife, especially when our babies were little, you should have seen the laundry list. I'm talking a novel she would write to her mom or my mom. Her mom raised 3 children. My mom raised 2. But when we were leaving our kids with them, you would have thought that neither one of those ladies ever raised kids. Yeah. And God forbid, Toby, you watch our dog for the weekend because you're going to get like a whole book on. So, but I use that in jest and lovingly. But when we're talking about being good communicators, as a leader in an industry, what I have found and what I've taught other people in my organization to do is, look, you need to talk to me as if I'm 8 years old and you're giving me instructions. So that's my one tip.
Well, and nonverbal as well. So as a leader, people are, if you're in a leadership role, especially literally, right? You're leading a team or you have 2 LOAs that work for you. Your nonverbal is also important. So what you prioritize, how you show up. I have a client not too long ago that I started working with, and he said, I really like everyone. This is where everyone comes into the office, and it's a customer-facing office. They have a lot of walk-in type of business. And he said, the dress code, everyone's really gotten kind of lax over these last couple of years with how they're dressing.
Oh,
and it
Jesus,
went from,
don't get me started.
It went from like business casual to jeans and a blazer to sweatpants, and now it's like straight up like mowing the lawn clothes.
Yeah,
like
I'm like,
they just came in with like shavings. Like,
is it moving day? Is
like,
this today moving day?
He's like what? It's bad. He's like, he's like, I'm a casual guy, but this is like going really to the extreme. Well, guess what? So I started sometimes when I'm able to physically spend a few days with that client, I did in their office. And what I saw was the leader was pretty darn casual themselves. So when I first met with them, they were kind of dressed up because they were meeting me for the first time. Then afterwards, I'm like thinking, well, those look like you mowed your lawn as well on the 3rd day I was there. So you have to lead by example. I mean, these are some of these kind of cliche, things we heard.
But it's the truth.
But it's so true. So if it's not important to you, then how do you expect it to be important?
So
to other
enough people
so.
who've tuned in enough are tired of listening to me say this, but I'm going to say it just until I'm dead.
For good measure, yeah.
Look good, feel good, play good, period. Get up every morning, put on your uniform, and go to work.
Yeah.
I don't wear a blazer and slacks at my house, but I do when I'm at work because that's my uniform.
Right.
And that's when I feel the best. That's when people take me the most serious. Now, another thing about appearance, there used to be a time that I am still 6'2", but there was a time I was 6'2", 240 pounds, and like was all into powerlifting.
Yeah.
You take that and you take a bald head and you throw a goatee on it, that's one mean looking person.
Yeah.
I had to learn to smile.
Right.
Like you, I had these really awesome dimples.
Thanks.
I have to show people those dimples because if not, it's like, well, that dude's mean.
You're right.
You're like, who wants
You're
to do
right.
business with a mean person? Who
Yeah,
wants to be
smile.
led by a mean person?
Yep.
So for me,
right.
eye contact and smiling,
Yes.
because I had to, luckily, through my little transformations over the past couple of years, I slimmed down a little bit, took off the goatee, grew the full beard. Didn't change my height, at least not yet. I'm getting older, so I'm sure I'm shrinking. But no, it's like that. Those minor details that matter. That's the difference sometimes between good and great is, do you recognize as much as, oh crap, I'm intimidating to some people just based on my appearance.
Right.
When I
again, how
wasn't
are you
trying to.
perceived, right?
Yeah.
How are you literally
and perception
coming
is
across?
reality.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
As you said, I loved what you said. I see myself based on my
Yes.
is it my thoughts?
Your
Wait,
intentions.
my intentions.
You
Yeah.
judge yourself based on your intentions because you're like, well, I might not have said,
Yeah.
I didn't say it right, but I meant this
But-
because that's what you know. So that's how you judge yourself, but you judge others based on their actions.
Which means I'm being judged
Much more
by
right.
my actions.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, so if my actions are a non-smiling, non-eye contact person,
That's right.
I'm judged that way.
That's right.
All right,
So,
cool.
Yeah, so the other is empowering others.
Oh, I love that
So,
word.
Yes.
Love it.
It's a kind of counterintuitive type of thing. As a leader, I think sometimes maybe in the old leadership manuscripts, you would think that, it's a power thing, right? And it's I'm the leader and my way or the highway. And at least for me, and there's some leaders like that. They're going back to the bad, what I would call poor leadership skills. I do not think it should be like that. I think it should be a lot more inclusive, and including that, it should be empowering others, giving away actually the power and bringing others up, right? Helping them to empower them to make decisions.
You ever heard of Starbucks?
Sure.
Yeah. It's a little company.
Yeah.
Like every 100 yards there is
That's
one.
right.
Yes.
You have one, right? A
Yes,
new one, right?
yeah.
Do you drink Are you a big Starbucks guy?
I'm a coffee guy,
Yes.
and luckily for me, I'm not a coffee snob.
Okay.
So that Keurig generic brand from Costco
Yes.
tastes the same
Yes.
and I drink black coffee.
So
like
it's
I
no
don't do
reason
the
to-
whole
macchiato, caramel
yeah.
double macchiato with the whipped cream and all the stuff, the good stuff. or whatever.
Although
Yeah,
I wish I remembered this name. JC, do you remember the name of that Cuban restaurant we went to? Okay, so
Cafe con leche or whatever.
no,
it's called?
we're
Okay.
we're down in Fort Lauderdale with Rene Rodriguez, and Rene treats us to he's of Cuban descent, so
yeah.
so he loves being in South Florida because he's originally from like most of his time is spent in Minneapolis. So yeah, Cubano, you get some Cubano. So he takes us to this Cuban restaurant. We weren't even in Miami. We were still in Fort
Yeah.
Lauderdale.
Still,
Oh,
though, yeah.
lights out, but I had a Cuban coffee at the end of my meal.
Sweet, right? Is
Oh,
that
it
the one
was-
that's real
yeah,
sweet?
and I love
Yeah,
sweet
yeah.
things.
It's like a port wine.
Yeah,
but
it was
equivalent.
fantastic. But no, so I don't do Starbucks often because I just do black coffee.
Yeah.
But no, Starbucks. You mentioned empowerment.
Yes.
Read any story
Mm-hmm.
about Howard Schultz and Starbucks and the empowerment that they give their associates.
Yes.
And having a voice.
Yep.
It's many people like they ask me, why have I been with my employer for 14 years? And I'll tell them 2 reasons. I'm empowered and I have a voice.
Yes.
If you empower me, I can
Yeah.
make more money if I left. I promise you I can make more money if I left. But would I have the same voice that's being heard? And would I be empowered to make decisions that I think are best for me and my group?
That's right.
Probably
And-
not.
Yeah, and you have to trust that people have their own set of experiences and their own wisdom. And yeah, you do. I mean, it's a lot of parenting analogies there you can do as well. But you as a leader, you have to trust people and you have to
So-
empower them and make them better.
That's
and
going to say,
bring
let's.
people up.
What does empowerment really mean? Like give me an example how someone, and it doesn't have to be the CEO or the owner.
Right.
Now, if you're the CEO and the owner, I think empowerment, I think you understand that. That
Yeah.
basically means delegate and take your hands off
Right.
and trust it'll get done.
Yep.
It might not get done the way that you would do it, And it may only be done at a 90%
Right.
of how you would want it done.
Mm-hmm.
But that gives you something to build on. You now have a litmus.
That's right.
And then you can encourage, teach, coach, develop said associate who you just empowered to do it maybe closer to how you do it, or maybe their way was better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's easy for those types of to understand, oh, that's what empowerment means. But for the average, ordinary, everyday, I'm talking the college student graduating this May,
Yep.
or the person who was 4 years out of college. What would empowerment mean to them?
Yeah. So I'll give you a real life example. So I have a client recently that wanted to bring on a junior loan officer, and he's at a position in his business where he wants to, and some of you listening might be wondering, is that something that I should do or would want to do? Am I at that place? What would that look like? Right. So that's always a really interesting time in someone's career, I believe. Anyways, he broke down all the tactical things that he'd want this person to do, like the 500 steps of his day or the loan process. And then he would say, this is what my junior is going to do, all these things, right? Which is great and which is fine. I said, let's not, however, in addition to all these things, we're not robots. So you want someone, I would assume, right? Do you want someone that is at lockstep with you on a big picture goal? You want someone to really grow your business with, take it to the next level, all the good stuff. He said, oh, of course, right? And he's a great leader, really great leader I've known for years. So I said, well, let's not make sure that we lose sight of the big picture and what your ultimate goal is. And that even if the person doesn't do all 184 things that you put on his side, and then you kept the other, out of the 500 list, you kept the other things for yourself, let's make sure that this new junior knows the ultimate goal is you want to have more business naturally, but you want to, have raving fan customers at the end of this, that you want to make sure that everyone that interacts with you walks away thinking, man, I really would love to do more business with this team. In other words, I think you can almost overanalyze something sometimes as a leader and break it down into too much of the nuts and bolts and lose the bigger picture, which the tie-in for empowerment is, as long as you're clear about communicating what the team or the company goal is, and it gives people some freedom. Empowerment and freedom, let them do things, like you said, their way. Let them get there. If I say, I'm going to meet you, Dustin, we're going to meet in Hollywood, California next week. Here's a map of exactly every little turn and every gas station I want you to take to get there. That's how some leaders work. Here's exactly, and I want you to do it exactly this way. Or you could say, you know what, meet me there next Wednesday at 4, and you got a phone, right? If you know how to read a map, go for it. I'll meet you there. And that's not a wrong or right. I don't want someone to think, well, my leader tells me exactly what to do every day. But I do think that there's some room, and you'd be surprised what people will come up with and what value they can bring if you just let them. So the empowerment is, tell them what the ultimate goal is, make sure you're communicating exactly what that looks like or needs to look like, and then let them have a little bit of freedom to get it done within reason, right? And believe me, the mortgage business is a very compliant business, so we understand that there's a lot of that. But yeah, that's what that kind of looks like to me.
No, I love your analogy.
Trust them.
I love the Meet Me in Hollywood, California analogy at this time.
Yep.
Because I think as leaders, you have to have the ability to inspect what you expect, but I don't know if you have to micromanage. Like I would encourage people. I don't think you do. And like a current book I'm reading on habits, it tells this awesome story about Alcoa, which is like it's the aluminum company of America. It's like a Fortune, I think 10 company in the U.S. But when they talk about empowerment, they started empowering their employees on safety protocol. Just, hey, how can we make our operations safer? You're thinking about aluminum. That's a lot of hot liquid that's being poured. I'm sure there's lots of heavy machinery. People probably lose limbs, if not lives, on an annual basis in industries like that. Like think steel mill, but aluminum. And the super long story short from the chapter I just most recently read was a employee, because he was empowered to give feedback on safety, he felt inclined to use that same protocol to give feedback on processes. Well, the process he gave feedback on took a department that used to lose $10 million a year, and now that's profitable by $10 million a year, right? All because someone empowered them. Now, they started, because it's a habit book, so it's on habit creation, habit forming, just, hey, let's empower people on safety, because who can't get behind safety?
Right.
The unions
Smart.
can get behind safety.
Yep.
The managers can get behind safety. Like, no one's going to argue
Right.
about worker safety.
Yeah, it's pretty objective.
Yep. But then once everyone got in this mindset of it's all about safety, and we're empowering people to be safe and to bring ideas, and more importantly, to report people who weren't being safe or who weren't following protocol, now the ideas just started going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my cool story when I think about empowerment.
Yes.
And it's obviously relevant because I just read that chapter like 2
Yeah.
nights ago.
And you're great at that. You do empower your team as a leader.
Have to.
I mean,
I'm a
you're great at
huge,
that.
if you looked at one of my,
You're great.
I use old school, like, notepads
Yeah,
for
okay.
everything.
I do too.
And certain notepads are my to-do list, but there's certain things that always carry over.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And one is empower. It's always written on there. Empower.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
great.
And empower, and then, make sure you let others talk, which if you listen to enough of my episodes, I don't do that very well, but I'm working on it. Hey, no one's perfect. I'm working on it.
You
What
a
else do you have for
fantastic
us?
job.
What
So
are,
what did you just say? Listen. So
Oh.
that's too funny. So I tried to think of like big buckets, right? I have this pretty comprehensive process that I've built now for working with my clients, but I thought of what are some big nuggets, right? That would, if you're taking notes or listening in the car, it'd be kind of easier to absorb. And the next was as a leader to listen. And part of that is to literally ask questions. What could we do better? How are things going? Did you understand what we are working on, right? Ask and then listen. It's amazing, and I guarantee a lot of people are going to be listening to this little section and thinking, shaking their heads. Yes, it's amazing the information, the ideas that you'll get if you just listen as a leader from your team, because they have great ideas. They'll tell you what's going on, right?
write this down. Ready?
Yes.
Right? What could I do for you?
That's right.
Hey, what can I do for you?
Yep.
I mean, for me, I love asking. I also love being asked.
Mm-hmm.
It shows someone
Sure.
cares.
That's right.
It shows someone cares.
Yep. And in life, by the way, right? That's a big thing. Just boy,
If you're on a sales call with somebody,
yes.
you're on a sales call and you did your pitch,
Yep.
right? You're asking them to buy your product or buy your service or partner with you. Your last ask after you've asked for the business should be, what can I do for you?
Yep. And then listen.
And then actually listen.
Actually
Yeah,
listen.
not like, hey, how you doing? Like, I
Right.
really don't care what you're doing. I'm just trying to be nice.
That's right.
Yeah, but like, and actually listen.
Yep.
Take notes. Take notes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how there's so many, as I always, anytime I talk with you, it's great because there's so many common denominators and things. And it's, there again, there's not one way to do anything in life. There's a lot of different roads that'll get you there. But there are absolutely so many common denominators in what goes into having a successful career in the mortgage industry and any of the professionals that you talk about in real estate and title. I know there's a lot of people, personally, I know a lot of people that have binged like all of your episodes, all of your shows. And if you are in that kind of mindset where you're listening to a bunch back to back, I'm sure you can even hear it quite literally from all the different experts that you have on talk about all of these things.
Oh,
they apply in so many different things. So yeah, if you're not a great listener now, and there again, maybe you're a loan officer, and so you're interacting certainly with people all the time. How good of a listener are you? And do you have some really great open-ended questions? Like you just gave a great nugget. Do you have some of those great open-ended questions in your kind of arsenal, right? And if you don't, use that one or come up with a couple. Very powerful stuff in like makes a big difference.
Well,
you know?
another one that I'm getting ready to go down a rabbit hole. But I remember I was in my early 20s teaching one of my closest friends through like high school and college. We were on a cruise together. And he was saying to my wife, he was like, how does he just talk to everybody? He's like, I don't get it. Now, he's a bit of an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I just don't understand it. So I was like, well, you want me to teach you? He's like, you can't teach this. And now I was probably pulling stuff out of my rear end, but I'm like, Dane, try this.
Right.
Every time someone says something to you, ask them questions like, how does that make you feel?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, how do you like that?
Yep.
If you can learn how to say, well, how does that make you feel? Or how do you like that? Or how do you enjoy doing that? Or how did you get started doing that?
Yeah,
something open-ended.
Yes.
Like
yes.
it's not a yes, no.
Yeah.
And then shut up and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they keep on talking, when they're done talking, ask the next version of the same question.
Yep.
I go, all of a sudden, people are going to love you.
Yes.
All you did is let them talk for 15, 20 minutes and you listened.
Yeah.
And hopefully you took notes
Sure.
in your head mentally. Like
yeah.
you were taking notes, you were remembering some key points.
Yep.
And then for someone who talks over people consistently, for someone who loves to hear himself speak, It is because I do think I have valid things to say. I promise you.
You do. You have a lot of great things to say.
Cross your fingers. This is what works for me. Might not work for you. I cross my fingers, and
I do the same thing.
I put
swear
it.
to
I
you.
put it right on my thigh,
Okay.
and I cross my fingers the minute the thought comes up, because for whatever reason I won't forget now. If my fingers stay
Okay.
crossed,
Okay.
and then I'll just sit here and I'll continue to listen,
I like
continue to listen. I do it sometimes underneath the table. If people
That's
ever want to know, like, what's he doing with his hands underneath the table?
There's a lot of jokes there.
Yeah,
Yes.
correct. Tons of jokes. Hey, they're up top. They're up top. No, usually I have I'm gonna have two fingers crossed. I'm just trying to remember to come back to a certain point.
I love it. I was like, I do the same thing, similar thing with the fingers, about asking two questions because I'm a little verbose myself, and so I would get talking, and I always would. I stole this from someone years ago. When I was speaking with a client doing an application, I would always ask them questions, and then under the table, I'd have a 1 and a 2 on my fingers, and always ask 2 follow-up questions to
Okay.
anything they
I
talked
like
about.
that.
So it was always like, okay, I ask one, I'm going to ask another one, and so, anyways, I digress.
All right.
Okay,
last one.
Lastly, so and there again, this is absolutely one that you can make a market difference in, a market improvement in this kind of category if you so choose, right? And that's confidence. So, and not having confidence as a leader, I think it's important, and it doesn't have to be I'm able to be like Dustin and be on stage and do a keynote and crush it, and
Well, I didn't
not
crush
that
it because I
confident.
made love to a water
You
bottle
did
and
crush
I
it.
kept
The
my
fact
left
you-
hand in my
I
pocket,
know,
but
I
it's
didn't-
okay.
I'm sure you crushed it. But it doesn't have to look. Confidence can look different. It can be a quiet confidence. But when I mean confidence is, don't be wishy-washy. No, be convicted in what you're talking about or what the mission is that everyone's going towards. Being confident and coming across confident. If you speak. There again, it doesn't have to be a literal, but if you're speaking in a way that's not clear and that you're changing your direction all the time, what happens is people will not follow you or not want to be influenced by what you're saying because they're just confused, right? So just thinking about it, and there again, it can be some physical things that do come across, but also being just confident and working through your thoughts, right? Yeah. So
Too bad we couldn't make a potion called a confidence potion
Yeah.
and people could
'Cause
drink
it's
it.
tough. It's a real, yeah.
I mean, because when you start thinking about
it's
how
a thing.
do you gain confidence? I mean, for me, I gain confidence. I do know
Yep.
when I am exercising daily. I do know when I'm eating healthy. I do know when I am working on my mental fitness, whether it's with a business coach, a life coach,
Yep.
or a family therapist.
Agree.
I know that I'm at my most confident.
Agree.
I know that when I'm recently showered and shaved, for me, shaving's a big one. If
it
I didn't
is.
shave my neck or my cheekbones,
You just don't.
I
yeah.
just feel dirty.
Us
And then if I
women
feel
have makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I
Yep.
agree
So
with you. Yeah.
I think looking
ready.
good, you feel good. And then if you get on that stage, and that stage, by the way, could be a one-on-one. It could be an interview for a job, right? It doesn't have to be like,
No.
Toby's speaking in front of 500 people. It's
Right.
just whatever your stage is. Sometimes my stage is I want a headset because my audience is on their cell phone and we're 1,000 miles away.
Yep.
But I still want to feel good, look good. I use I stay away from forever words, like always,
I agree.
never,
Agree.
right? So I stay away
Should
from
ring
words
a
like
bell
that.
every time I'm
Yeah.
like, I
Oh,
1,000%.
all,
Ding, ding.
all, blah,
Yes.
blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
No, is it all? All's a strong word.
Right.
Every time. Is it every
Absolutely,
time?
yeah.
So
Guarantee.
Yeah, stay away from the absolutes.
Yeah.
And because that helps you if you lack confidence in what you're saying.
Yes.
You're giving yourself an out.
Yes.
Right? You give yourself an out. You give yourself a reason to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong, by the way. It's also okay to be challenged. Another one that I use frequently, this is a confidence thing. And as it probably comes to communication, so we talked about communication, we talked about confidence, the world as I know it. Hey, this is the world as I
Yeah.
experience it.
Yes.
Everything I'm getting ready to tell you are based on my personal experiences.
From my perspective.
Yeah. And I'm the first person, I'll tell people, and sometimes it's a funnyism or an out. I'm like, hey, look, I'm biased. If I tell you how great my company is, I do think that we're a great company.
Yes.
I've also been here for 14 years.
Yeah.
So I may have blinders on. I don't know.
Right.
But here's what I do know. I know that I'm not willing to leave.
Right.
So that must mean it must be good.
Yeah, and you're building rapport because then people trust you because people know that life isn't made in absolutes, right? We know that instinctively. So yeah, it makes right away. They're like, oh, I connect with this person because I get it. I would say to put a bow on the whole conversation is going back to working with leaders that maybe aren't the best for you in your career and how to identify that. I think this is a big one. If you how to improve your confidence is to be around people both your peers, but also your leaders that instill confidence in you, that actually, listen to you, that make you feel good, that don't belittle you, that don't talk down to you. If you're working for someone who's going to berate you, or when you bring up an idea, when you go back to the speaking up, if you bring up an idea and they just bash you, of course that's going to hurt your confidence. I've been in those roles as a pretty just naturally even confident person, but someone who had worked on my confidence over many years, it can really be eroded pretty quickly when you have someone that talks down to you or isn't kind to you. So get out of those situations, I would tell you, because it's very hard, if not maybe almost impossible, to be in an environment like that and then still, increase your confidence levels. But it could be a mentor, it could be working with a coach to kind of help, that practice, all that good. There's a lot of tactics around confidence as well. It's a whole thing, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Put that back up there. I need it.
Oh, okay.
Put that back. No, grab it. I need it.
Oh, okay. Was there something on there?
Yeah, I need that. I was actually thinking in my head, she better not put that piece of paper that she had strategically hidden behind this beautiful bottle of whiskey that was gifted to us by the people over at Jungo. If you need a good CRM, check out Jungo.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
But no, you put this little piece of paper in here is to help keep you and I on track, because we're two chatty Cathys and we go keep going. Yep. But I want to thank you because you were circling back to one of the first two questions I asked you, which was, hey, I'm out interviewing. I want to make sure I interview for a good leader.
Yes.
Okay. Now we know. Yeah. When you're interviewing with a good leader, ask that leader, that direct report, the hiring manager, can you give me examples about how you show your associates that you care? Mm-hmm. Can you talk about your effective communication style? How do you communicate to your team? Yep. Can you give me examples of how you empower your team? Mm-hmm. How would you rate yourself as a listener?
Right.
Not done yet.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, I like to read it upside down better. Like, I felt like I was not cheating as much when I was reading it upside down. Now you're like, make me really cheat on it. And then it's, for the confidence, you'd have to gauge that just by, you want to go work for someone who's confident.
Exactly.
Especially if they're a caring, confident person who communicates well, empowers you, and is a good listener.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, if you're sitting there and you're at an interview or, second meeting, what have you, and the person's like totally preoccupied and doing 50 other things and not prioritizing that conversation, there's some key signs right in the beginning, right? But I would also say, as a shout out to you, Dustin, a thousandfold, first of all, because I just respect you immensely.
Well, thank you.
And have always done so. But, go work for someone like Dustin. I mean, there's enough wonderful, great people out there. So, you have choices, certainly, right? We can go and you can pick up your coins or your chips or whatever you want to say.
That focus is called 40 for 30. 40 volts for 30 seconds. That's all it takes.
Oh, interesting.
That's all it takes to really make a connection with somebody. So. Yeah. But so if you're trying to figure out, do I work for a good leader? Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, do they care about you? Right. Are they good communicators? Are they empowering you? Do they listen to you when you talk? Do they give you 40 for 30? Mm-hmm. And then what type of confidence are they instilling in you, or what type of confidence are they displaying? Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Do they ever ask people? And then I also talk to other people if you have the opportunity to chat with if you're in that interview stage, talk with other people in the organization and see what they say. Because sometimes, we can all put our best, face forward for a little short amount of time. But
that is amazing advice. Yeah. I've yet to interview someone where I've said, hey, look, if you go to this website, you'll find a roster of our associates. Yeah. I don't want to tell you which one to call. Call them.
Yeah, that's strong.
Call 5 of them.
Yeah, that's strong.
I don't know what they're going to say. Yeah. But I only want you to come work here if you did that and you knew what you're getting yourself into, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Toby, thank you so much. If people need to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Yeah, so luckily, I guess, or unluckily, however you want to look at it, I have an unusual name, so there's not many Toby Moyles out there. So if they Google me, they'll find all sorts of websites. But it's Toby with an I. Toby with an I. With an I. That's right. So you can just Toby
Google
Moyle. Yes. Tobimoyle. Toby Moyle. Her company is Life is a Ladder. Last ask. In February of 2023, we are confident that we're going to be hosting a TLOP Live. This is a live event for the TLOP audience. We're going to host it in Orlando, Florida. It's going to be probably a day and a half. Sales, mastermind, workshop, empowerment. Great. Would you be a part of that? Oh, I'd be honored. You'd be a part of that? Yes, and I'm so excited. I'm going to mark my whole February off right now so I can make sure whatever day it is that I'm available. I will be there with bells on. We're going to see what we can do. I think I can get Mike Smalley who's a $90 million mortgage producer.
Yeah, he's rocks.
There's a chance, because I just hung out with him, maybe I could get Renee Rodriguez. We could put together a pretty badass event here in Orlando.
Be awesome.
And we'd open it up first and foremost to our TLAP listeners and their friends and family
That would be
and their
awesome.
coworkers.
Yeah, that would
Cool.
I do not miss event for sure.
Beautiful.
Thank you, sir.
She's Toby Moyle. I'm Dustin Owen. You've tuned into the Loan Officer Podcast. That's all the time we have for you today, but we will catch you in the next episode. Peace.
Take care.